Okay, in this video we're going to put together our beautiful Dragonfly card here. So a little bit different than some of the cards that we've done in the past, but nevertheless should go together fairly easily. So I've sort of kind of arranged things the way that they're going to go together. So I will kind of take them apart so you can see how everything goes. And it's kind of sticking because we just cut this with a pretty fresh mat. So here we have the two sides that are going to basically create our card. Okay, so you can see the formation of the little dragonfly here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to glue these pieces down here. And if you take a look here, you'll notice that there's a nice little border along the inside of the actual dragonfly. There are no borders here. And you do want to get this piece here, which we've done in a gold foil, a textured gold foil at that. And you want to get that out right up to the edge of this piece here. And you want to replicate that here as well. Okay, so we can go ahead and do that. We'll get these pieces glued to start. And I've got a full bottle of glue here today. It's starting to run out there during my last video. And gotta kind of relearn the, what's the word I'm looking for? You gotta kind of relearn the sensitivity, I guess, of this bottle here, because I know that as a tip gets a little older, it does get a little bit of glue that cakes up in there, and it can change the way that the glue kind of comes out. So I did my best there to get glue into the various areas, and I'm just kind of looking at the bottom part here to make sure that I'm getting that all nice and aligned, and then I'm shifting my gaze to the area up here where we're going to have a little bit of a border, just making sure that I've got that nice and aligned. And then I'm going to pick this up and just kind of make any little subtle adjustments that I might find to be necessary to get this to line up perfectly. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm just kind of doing this first to stiffen this piece up a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to repeat that on the other side here. And I'm putting down little dots here. I don't need too much on here because I don't want it to spill out beyond the area of the back of this, so it doesn't taint my card. But I do want to make sure that I'm getting little dots out to the extremities here so that it sits nice and flat and looks nice and seamless. This gold against this blue is really pretty. Okay, so I'm just kind of matching that up here at the bottom, making sure that those cutouts are not, or that they're perfectly lined up with these cutouts here in the blue. And then just making sure that I've got a nice little border right here as well. And that looks pretty darn good. And as you can see, when you close it up, you've got yourself a nice little dragonfly there. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is you can go ahead and get the base of this thing sort of prepped here. And this is the base of the card. I've got my texture side on the back. Okay. And this piece here is a little insert. This is where you're going to stamp or journal or whatever it is that you want to do. I'm going to take this piece and I am going to put glue on the back of this. Just little dots here and there. And I can already tell that I kind of maybe don't like brand new glue tips, because even with subtle pressure, I'm getting a lot more coming out here. So I might need to kind of find a tip that I really love and let it get caked on there and just kind of work with that. Okay, so this is going to line up perfectly with the little border there, or on the outer edge. So you want this flush with the edge, the outer edge. And I'm going to pick this up. Sometimes find it easier to work with stuff like this when I actually have it in my hands. And I had a little bit of glue kind of come shooting out in the upper corner here, but that's okay because it's gonna dry nice and clear. Might have a little sheen to it, but that's okay. If possible, if it's still wet, you can take like a little pick-me-up tool or a little razor blade and maybe scoop some of that excess glue off before it completely sets. Okay. So we got that. Now we're going to take this piece and we're going to glue it right to the center of this blue piece here. Okay. And I don't want to put too much glue on this. I mean, you want to cover it, but you want to be very sparse with your glue so that we can avoid warping it or having any of the glue show through. And I may just actually focus my glue on the exterior of the card and just do a little bit on the inside because we've got a layer of glitter there that would kind of prevent any warping or anything to kind of show through there. So you want the pointy part at the bottom, okay, and just do your best to get that nice and centered. You really can't mess that up. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. All right, now the way that this is going to work is we've got this little flap here. We're going to take this piece here and we're going to glue that to this little tab here, just like that. Okay, so we can actually go ahead and do that. Okay, just make sure that you're grabbing the right piece, okay, because if you put this one here, it's going to look kind of weird. We want the Dragonfly to meet up nicely. Okay, so here on this tab, you want a nice line of glue, and I am going to take my finger and spread that thin and get rid of any excess there. And then I'm going to take this piece and I'm actually going to put that flat on my table and place it down like so, just so that I have that leverage there to push down and get that glued in place, and then that way I also avoid warping or bending or creasing the paper. I want everything to be nice and crisp and pristine. Okay, just like that. That looks good. There we go. Okay, so we've got one more tab here. I'm going to go ahead and put glue on this tab. It's a very quick card. It's really cool, especially if you bling it out with a little bit of gold foil paper. It's just gonna sparkle and dazzle. And now when we put this down, let's just make sure that we don't do it upside down. Okay, so that's gonna go down like so, and I am missing a little bit of glue out here on the edge. And I don't want to do that, because then I'm gonna have a little part that is gonna be lifting up, and it's not going to be pretty. Okay, so there we go. Get that right on that tab. You can kind of rub off any excess glue you may have there. And I'm just going to kind of karate chop it. Put some even pressure on there, and then fold it over. And there we go. Okay, so that looks really pretty. And you can just give that a few extra seconds to really set. Work your finger along that tab there. And now there are two little purple pieces that we're going to put down right there. And we want those butted up right in the center. So when the two sides meet, it kind of completes the little body of our Dragonfly. And I'm missing one of them. I gotta just find it somewhere. I'm sure it just fell off my table. Anyway, we'll just kind of continue on here. So you are going to have two of these, one for each side. And I'm just going to dress this with just tiny little bits of glue. And actually, let me just squeeze a little bit out. Sometimes if you don't have glue right at the tip, and you squeeze, like a ton comes out, and we don't want that. So I'm just doing little tiny dots. And actually some of those are probably bigger than I want. Okay, yep, they're a little too big. But they should be okay, and I might just smear that flat before I go on. Yeah, these brand new bottles, the brand new tips they're not as consistent as my bottle that I've been using for a month or a few weeks or whatever. So just be cautious of that when you get a new bottle. I know we get excited when we get new glues and stuff like that, but sometimes it's a bad thing. Okay, so just line that up right up to the edge, and just make sure that you've got that nice and centered there. Okay, so you have a nice little even border going all the way around the little antenna portion, or actually that would be his tail, sorry. Okay, so just like that, and let me find my other half of him. Okay, so my other side of the Dragonfly here, the purple part, showed up, so I got that in place. And now what we want to do is we're going to put our vellum down. Okay, now the most important thing, because when you put vellum down, you probably usually want to put vellum or glue in all these little areas here, but you don't want to do that because it's going to show through, because this little cover here only covers just the perimeter. Okay, so we want to make sure that when we place this, that we just put glue around the perimeter here. So I'm going to go ahead and just do little dots all the way around the perimeter here. We don't want these to show through when we put our little cover on. Okay, so you just want to put glue right around that perimeter, just like that. And just squeeze that out. It's okay if a little glue smears. We're going to cover that right up in just a second. So that's what it should look like on the other side there. Okay, and then we're going to take this, and if all goes well, we'll have all those little areas covered up nicely, which we do. Okay, so when we glue this down, we just want to make sure that it is flush with both these sides here. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, I'm going to put the glue down on the back of this. Just a nice line of glue. And I am going to flatten this out with my finger. Just kind of smear it out, because I don't want any of it squirting out. Very nice thin line. And then again, you just want to place that so that it's flush on all sides. Especially, I would use this side as my initial guide, and then the rest of it should just fall into place. Okay, so that's going to cover up that vellum nicely, just like that. Okay, and there's a little translucent little piece there. And again, you're just going to repeat that process on the other side here. So I'll walk you through it again. Again, just the smaller the dots, the better. You don't need that much glue to hold your vellum. And the less glue you get on there, the less likely it is to spill out. And we want to try to avoid that if possible. Okay, so let's get our vellum right in place. There we go. And just kind of squeeze it in a little bit. And just push down, make sure that it gets into those pores of the vellum. Okay, that looks good. And we can go ahead and take our final little panel here and do a nice little line. Okay, and I'm going to spread that thin with my finger. That looks good. And Let's get that in place. Make sure that the top and bottom is nice and flush, and then the rest of it will just fall into place for us. Apply some pressure to get that in place and give that a good chance to dry. I'd probably fold it flat like this and then just push down like this. Okay, give that time to dry. And there's it, that's it, there's your card. Okay, now let's go ahead and put together our little envelope that comes with this. It's very simple. It's 2 pieces. I've already taken everything and folded at the score marks. Okay, so you want to do that. Now this piece here is kind of sticking again because I had a brand new mat that was pretty sticky. So there's a little bit of tack left on there. And I'm just going to go ahead and get our little dots of glue. All right, on there. Okay, and that's going to go right on here. Let me put this down flat. And I maybe start with the little circle here. Make sure you get that nice and aligned. And then the rest of it should just kind of fall into place. Just need to kind of scooch it around a little bit. It should pretty much hug the perimeter of the base of the envelope nicely. Okay, that looks good. And so that is our flap, okay? And what we want to do is we want to bring these 2 side pieces in, and we're going to fold this over, okay? So take a look at where you're going to need your glue. Don't need much. Be very sparse with it. Don't want too thick of a line because then it's going to kind of show through. And just get that glued down, just like that. There we go. Give that a little extra time to dry, and then you can kind of push that down. And there's your envelope for your beautiful card, which will fit in there nicely. And you are ready to go. Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.